Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Girl screams, "Don't get in the car." Millionaire takes a step and discovers a terrible truth. Alexander Bennett had always been a man of the hour. At 38, he effortlessly carried the legacy of a dynasty that had shaped much of New York's business landscape. His slender frame cut perfectly in a tailored black suit, made of expensive and refined Italian fabrics. His steely blue eyes captivated and commanded respect, while his controlled smile was a trademark at social gatherings. That evening, in the heart of the luxurious Langham Hotel on Fifth Avenue, a select crowd had gathered. The hushed voices, the delicate clinking of champagne flutes, the shimmering evening gowns, and impeccable suits created a scintillating backdrop. Alexander, the true maestro of the evening, moved effortlessly from one group to the next, exchanging handshakes, polite smiles, and a few well-placed phrases. Yet despite this brilliant facade, an invisible weight pressed on his chest. It wasn't fatigue, he was used to long nights. It wasn't stress, matter was under control. No, it was a dull sensation, a shudder of uncertainty that left him feeling a little more tense with each passing minute. Perhaps it was intuition, that sixth sense life had taught him to listen to. He paused for a moment by the bar, contemplating his reflection in an antique, gold-framed mirror. The man he saw seemed impeccable, self-assured, invincible. But something in his eyes betrayed a hesitation, a fragility few could have guessed. As the night wore on, the conversations became more hushed, the glances more calculated. Alexander felt it was time to leave. He politely thanked a few relatives and offered a final smile to Claire, his sister, who was chatting nearby with Mark, her husband. His heart sank slightly, for no apparent reason. Crossing the vast hall with its majestic chandeliers, he felt the heat of the spotlights recede. The photographers had become more discreet, their flashes fading like stars fading at dawn. He opened the door of his black limousine, the body gleaming under the streetlights. Just as he placed his hand on the handle, a shout pierced the air, breaking the night silence. "Don't get in the car." The sound was so sudden, so desperate, that everything seemed to stop. Several guests, surprised, turned toward the source of the cry. Alexander froze, his eyes instinctively searching for the source. A figure emerged from the shadows, a young woman with drawn features, short of breath, her eyes wide with anxiety. "Wait," she cried again, striding forward, her voice trembling but full of urgency. The car, which had already started to turn the key in the ignition, stopped. The man behind the wheel, intrigued, rolled down the window, giving him a questioning look. Alexander, torn between suspicion and curiosity, observed the young woman. Who was she? What could she possibly know to risk disrupting this perfectly orchestrated evening? In a calm but firm voice, he asked, "Who are you? What do you mean, don't get in the car?" Emily took a deep breath, as if to draw all her courage from the icy night air. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice, when she spoke, was clear, laden with aching sincerity. "My name is Emily Carter. I work as an assistant for your sister, Claire." Alexander frowned, surprised by this revelation. Claire Bennett, his 32-year-old younger sister, had always been more than just a member of his family. She was his confidant, his most loyal ally, the only one he'd ever truly opened his heart to. He never would have imagined such a heavy secret could hide behind that bond. Emily continued, her voice wavering but determined. "Tonight, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. Someone is planning something against you, a plot to strip you of your fortune, to keep you from everything you've built." Alexander's heart began to beat faster, a mixture of fear and disbelief gripping him. "Who?" he asked, his voice deepening, almost choked with emotion. Emily looked down for a moment, then looked up, staring straight into Alexander's eyes. "Your sister, Claire, and her husband, Mark." The shock was violent. Alexander felt the ground give way beneath his feet. Could Claire, whom he had always protected, loved, and supported, really be capable of such betrayal? And was Mark, his brother-in-law, an influential lawyer and trusted man, involved? Emily continued, her voice trembling but firm. "They want to declare you unfit, to make you look like someone who can no longer run the family business. They plan to take control, little by little, until there's nothing left for you. The words resonated like a clap of thunder in Alexander's mind. He struggled to accept them, yet deep down he felt the cold reality of this betrayal. "Why are you telling me all this?" he asked, his eyes filled with pain, but also with a kind of gratitude. Emily lowered her voice, as if to confide a secret away from prying ears. "Because I'm scared. I'm scared for you. They threatened to fire me if I ever spoke out. But I couldn't let you down, not after everything you've done for Claire. You deserve to know the truth." A heavy silence fell between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. Alexander felt a surge of emotion rise within him, a mixture of bitterness, anger, and sadness. He knew his life had just changed. That scream in the night, that unexpected apparition, had just revealed to him a world he had refused to see. Alexander slowly stepped out of the limousine, each step echoing heavily in his chest. His mind was a swirling chaos of questions, doubts, and pain. He had always believed that wealth, power, connections, and appearances could protect everything. But in that moment, those certainties were crumbling like a house of cards swept away by a storm. He looked at Emily, still trembling, but her eyes filled with a quiet strength that contrasted with the fragility of the situation. Without hesitation, he gently grasped her arm, his gaze shifting from confusion to iron resolve. "We have to act quickly. You're coming with me." In the hours that followed, Alexander plunged headlong into what would become the biggest battle of his life. He summoned his contacts, called independent lawyers renowned for their integrity, experts in business law and asset protection. Every document, every email exchange, every captured word became a piece of a puzzle that outlined a methodical and well-orchestrated betrayal. The next day, he confronted Claire. Their confrontation took place in the austere office of the family business, bathed in a cold light that accentuated the palpable tension. Claire, elegantly dressed but cold as a wall of ice, looked him straight in the eyes. Without a tremor, she denied all the accusations, calling them lies and baseless attacks. "Alexander, you're going too far. You hurt me deeply with this nonsense. I'm your sister. I never wanted anything against you." But his tone betrayed a suppressed fear, a mask too fragile to conceal the truth. Alexander knew that behind this refusal lay an implacable will. Meanwhile, Emily continued to gather evidence and testimonies, courageous despite the threats. Her dedication was a light in the darkness, a constant reminder that he was not alone. Each day brought new revelations and setbacks, but also new strength for Alexander. He understood that this ordeal would not only be a fight for his possessions, but a battle for his dignity, his family, and his future. The trial opened in the spotlight. The press, the cameras, the incessant whispers. Every day was a painful spectacle for Alexander. He was no longer just a powerful and respected businessman. He had become a symbol of betrayal and human vulnerability. The accusations, the revelations, the witnesses, everything was on display, exposing his deepest wounds. But paradoxically, this exhibition was also a form of liberation. For the first time in a long time, Alexander felt freed from the weight of pretense. He understood that wealth and power were not enough to protect against intimate betrayals. He could no longer turn a blind eye or blindly trust those around him. As the weeks passed, the truth came to light. The evidence gathered by Emily and the legal team was irrefutable. Claire and Mark were found guilty of fraud and breach of trust. Justice resumed its course, restoring to Alexander what had been unjustly stolen from him. But beyond the legal victory, it was Alexander's inner transformation that was most striking. He felt a new, more humble, more lucid strength reborn within him. He decided to rebuild his life on solid foundations, carefully choosing his allies, his friends, and his family. Trust would never again be a blind gift, but a patient and earned conquest. One autumn evening, as the sun slowly set behind the Manhattan skyscrapers, Alexander and Emily walked side by side through the peaceful paths of Central Park. The air was cool, tinged with a melancholic sweetness. Alexander turned his head towards Emily, his eyes reflecting both gratitude and newfound serenity. "Thank you, Emily. Without you, I don't know what I would have done. You were my lighthouse in the storm." Emily smiled, her eyes filled with hope and confidence. Sometimes, it takes a truth to come out for the light to return. And sometimes, that light comes from those you least expect. They continued their walk, two souls united by a trial, ready to face together the promises of a future that was finally sincere.